Hello and welcome. This is Chris Ann, and we are going to be making a pop-up card today. And this is a pop-up card that you're going to make without the use of any die cuts whatsoever. So I'm going to show you a really simple, easy way to make that inside pop-up, but we're also going to make the outside card. So let's get started. Let's talk about all the supplies that we're going to need. Of the VersaFine Claire, we're going to need Monarch, we're going to need Nocturne, we're going to need Paradise, and we're going to need Rainforest. Now, as always, use whatever green, whatever blue, and whatever purple that you have, but I do really think that the VersaFine Claire Monarch is fantastic. For the stamps, we're only going to be using 3 stamps. The first one we're going to be using is Fairy Tale. The saying on the inside is fairy dust is like love. And for the side stuff, the field grass is what we're going to be using. And as always, I have them mounted to acrylic blocks. Also, if you would like to, you can use Kaleidacolor Vineyard. That's what I used on the inside of mine. We're also going to be using some smoothies to smooth out the ink. We're going to be using some stickles and, paper cutter and all that fun stuff. So you are going to need a mouse pad because we're going to be using unmounted stamps. So I like the cushion of the mouse pad to work for me. Also, we are going to be using, here I wrote it down, a piece of paper that is 3¼ by 5 inches. We are also going to be needing one full sheet, the 8½ by 11 of Nina 110 cardstock cut in half. We're going to be using both of these. And of course, the other is what we've cut down to this 3¼ by 5. And then we're going to be using some scrap pieces of paper. And that's simply what I cut. The saying on the inside was out of some scraps. So that's our dimensions. Let's get started with the stamping first. So let's I always start with my primary figure as being what I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stamp first. So let's ink this up with the Nocturne ink. And as always, I am not squishing this ink pad. I'm lightly kissing it to the stamp. And yet I'm also making sure I'm getting full coverage. It's okay to go around the stamp a few times. There. That's pretty well covered. And then when I stamp things, I do not stamp them right on the bottom. I go up just a hair. So I'm going to make sure this is straight. You could offset it if you wanted. This one I did pretty much in the center. There we go. Now this is a bolder, bigger stamp. So I'm going to give it a slight little rock while I'm holding it firmly in place, if that makes sense. Hope it does. And there we go. We got our stamp. Next thing that I'm going to do is I am going to take my grass and I'm going to use the green. In this case, I am going to move this out of the way because I don't want to get too much ink on that. I could have taken a scrap piece of paper and just simply put it over that. So let's ink this up and we're going to double stamp this. Here's our first generation stamp, and let's offset this a little bit. There's our second generation stamp. Don't worry about this right here. See, I lifted it up slightly, and that's how I got that differential of the ink. Don't worry about that. We're going to cover that up. So let's go ahead and do that again. I'm making sure I'm not covering the wings. When I have a clear stamp, I can come in and see where the wings are at. So there, I simply did the first generation stamping and then the second generation stamping. And that's all I'm going to do for that. So we're moving right along really quickly, but let's go ahead and let's do a little bit of the hills and the grass here while we have this rainforest ink out. Now, what I like to do is, this is my mask that I've made simply by taking a piece of scrap paper and I've torn it. I have shown that in other videos. So we're going to grab the green smoothie, the rainforest ink. I tap it into the ink. In this case, I have a glass mat, so I can tap it off onto my glass mat. I can tap it off onto a scrap paper. When I'm doing my grass and my hills, I like to pull down. So you can see she's standing on a little bit of a hill. So let's move this down. This particular mask that I've made, I have created this hill here, and I like to move that around. I do not have to keep re-inking my smoothie. In this case, this smoothie, and see, I'm avoiding the wings. This smoothie has a lot of ink on it. And I can come over here and I can add some more dimension. So I have different layers of darker and lighter. Did not get the wings. Okay, I stayed away from the wings. Next thing I do is I come in and I clean my surface immediately before I forget, because I don't want to turn this upside down and then get all that globs of ink everywhere. Now let's move on to our sky. In order to do the sky and maintain the wings being white, I created a mask. To create a mask, I simply took this stamp, I stamped it on my sticky note. Where the sticky note was sticky is where the wings were, and I cut them out. That's all I did. So let's just place them right over. And I'm doing this because I don't want to get the sky blue within the wings. I want to keep that separate. I kind of like the contrast of the white. So let's make sure I'm getting my blue. Yeah, there's my blue. And I have one smoothie per color family. So this gets used on all my blues. So let's tap that into the blue a couple of times. Let's tap it off. This one, I pulled the ink down. Here, I like to go in circles. Don't ask me why, I just do. So let's start off the mat. Let's come in and let's do some gentle circles. Come down to the grass, come all the way up. In my mind, it's okay to go through the flower. There, that's done. So once again, clean my work surface. I do want to do some edging in some purple because I do like that. So I'm going to leave my mask right where it is. Tap into the purple, tap off. I am going to do purple on the entire edge of the whole entire front panel of my card. And you can see if I come in a little bit more on the corners, I like coming in a little bit more on the corners. So I'm going to make sure I have all my corners equal. I don't think this corner is quite equal. It frames it nicely. So let's look and see what we have as we clean our surface again. Let's remove the mask. How beautiful is that? We're going to come in and add some glitter detail once the card is completed. Now we're going to work on the inside of the card. Remember, we have our two pieces of paper. This was the 8.5 by 11 cut in half. Let's take both of these and fold them in half. I do like to crease with a bone folder. That's how I like to do it. See why I keep my work surface clean? Because now if I didn't have it clean, I would be getting all that ink all over these white pieces of paper. So, you see, my fingers got all over the white pieces of paper, but we don't need to worry because that's going to be hidden. Here's how I create my pop-up. What I do is I take my word stamp, and in this case, this is my word stamp, and I'm going to measure the size of my word stamp. This is approximately in the middle of my piece of paper. So we're going to say right there, and we're going to say right there. I'm trying to keep these even here. I could measure it. I could draw a line with a pencil. I do want to come in just a hair more. I am not super precise that I need a pencil. If you want to, please, by all means, go ahead. So this is the beginning of our pop-up. Here's what we do. We fold this all the way in. I come in with my bone folder. I fold it one way. I flip. See, I've still got ink all over my surface, but this doesn't matter because this is going to be on the inside of our card. You're not even going to see this. So I folded it this way. I scored and folded it that way. So when I open my card up, there. Now see, I've got ink everywhere all over my fingers. And here's what I do when that's the situation. I just come in and I ink my entire card. Because I regularly am covered in ink, so I regularly have ways that I need to fix my mistakes and make them not look like mistakes. There. And that's pretty, and it matches the purple with our front. So easy peasy fix right there. So let's go ahead and stamp this. In this case, I did use the Kaleidocolor Vineyard, and you can see that I've done a couple already. Let me grab my scrap paper here. So what I do is, when you're using a Kaleidocolor, they are separated when you store them. And to use them, you simply attach them. And it's a rainbow ink pad, so I'm going to go up and down this way. I'm going to stamp that. I could have put my mouse pad underneath this. There you go. So before we cut this apart, I'm going to mount it onto this piece of paper, which is also a scrap. I'm going to show you how we're going to attach all this. So this mechanism gets hidden inside this piece of paper. So let's quickly tape this up. I would normally add much more tape than what I am going to do right now. So please keep that in mind. Let's do a little bit here, a little bit here. Let's do a little bit here. Of course, I would do some up the sides. Let's do some here. So you do need to do both sides. Do not put any tape here or within the card there as well. I would be putting tape up these sides, but we're running out of time. So what we do is we unstick all of this tape back. Now you could use a liquid glue as well. I do like the Nuvo glue. That's a great glue. But this is quick. So we take it, we attach it in here, we line that center up, and then I close it. That's all I do. And see, it's attached. Now, I can, oh, see, I got ink all over that too. So you know what? Let's come in and let's just add even more ink to it. This is what happens when you're an artist and you have ink all over the place. So let's grab our paper cutter. This is the Tonic Tim Holtz paper cutter. So I can cut this down. I am just eyeballing it. You know what? I want to cut these. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to attach this like so. And then I'm going to glue this to this. But what I want to do is I want to put a little bit of tape here. We're running out of time. So we're going to put our pop-up here. I'm going to glue this here. So when we close it, we have that. We're going to glue this here. We're going to take our stickles or whatever we have. We're just going to color in the wings. We're going to color in the flowers. We're going to attach this. And there's our card. Super simple. Thank you all. Be free.